Story 1. I was recently diagnosed with cancer, and that made me afraid. The funny thing is I never thought I would be, but now I am. I'm mostly afraid of not being able to experience things in my life that I would want to experience, like marrying my significant other, buying our first home, going on vacation, etc. I'm also afraid of what my death would do to my partner and parents. And, of course, I'm afraid of pain and dying alone in some hospital. So yeah, let's hope I will recover and not have to think about this for another 50-ish years. Yeah, I'm pretty young. Story 2. That's the way to word this question. Yes, I am. I'm not scared of being dead, but I'm very scared of becoming dead. I'm even more scared of nearly dying but surviving with a messed up brain or something. Story 3. I think I would just be disappointed. My life has gotten to a place I enjoy after struggling for a long time. It would be unfortunate to die after all the hard work. Story 4. My best friend had a near-death experience the other day. The day after, we relaxed, and he told me that the little accident made him realize he actually is scared of death because there's so much he still needs to do. Story 5. I hated my life before. I tried killing myself. I failed. So now I'm such a scaredy cat because I love my life and the people I surround myself with. I don't want that to end. I'm grateful for my survival. Story 6. No, my wife died from leukemia in my arms. I've seen death and I won't live in fear of it. I'm trying to fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Story 7. Natural instinct and probably the uncertainty of it all. I know when you are dead, you stop existing and you no longer think or feel or do anything, but at the same time, it just seems so unreal to me. I will never be able to experience anything truly from another perspective, so how can my point of view just cease to be one day? Logically, it will happen, but mentally, I cannot wrap my mind around the fact that I will die and there will be nothing. That I will experience nothing else and not even be aware of it. Story 8. I am because I am 31, and I am waiting for almost 10 years to finally start the life I want, but cannot due to financial reasons and depression. I just want to live a good life, and I am afraid that I wasted too much time and that it will be too late for me to finally be happy. Story 9. I am because if there is no place you go to after, then I just stop existing. I will not be in nothingness. I will not be in black. My thoughts will just stop existing. I will never do anything ever again. Story 10. I am okay with the idea of dying. It doesn't scare me, but I do worry about the impact it would have on my family. Edit. I'm glad to see others agree. I know many people who don't believe me when I say it, so I'm happy to read all your thoughts. Thank you for the awards too. Strangers. Story 11. Seem to be going against the majority here, but yes. What freaks me out is when I think about what comes next and the possibility, or likelihood, of it just being a black nothingness and your life is done. Although I won't feel anything or miss anything, similar to before I was born, the thought still really scares me when I think a lot about it. Story 12. I think one of the major things that scare me about dying is the concept of eternity. I mean, when you die, you're dead forever, and it scares me not to know how that feels. How does it feel not to be alive? Forever. I don't know, it's kind of an oxymoron situation because being dead doesn't feel like anything, since your capacity to feel is gone. That's also probably part of the fear factor. The uncertainty and the not knowing part of what being dead feels like really gets me. I don't like not knowing things. Story 13. Sometimes I will think that when I die, my brain will continue to function, and I will be floating in a void with my thoughts for an infinite amount of time. This is, of course, illogical, but I guess I sometimes think about this because my brain can't fathom a life without it. I then remind myself that that is really stupid, but this idea often pops back into my mind from time to time. Story 14. The only part of dying I'm scared of is being forgotten. I'm really scared of being just lost, my life not really amounting to any legacy. Actually, no, thinking about it as I write, I'm scared of the slow dying that my family seems to suffer with. Dementia runs through one side, Parkinson's the other, so maybe I'll forget why I'm shaking. I'd hate to see my family watch that. Story 15. I'm afraid of leaving my life behind. What if I die young and leave my daughter, my husband, and this life I created behind? My husband will probably remarry, and my daughter will be too young to remember me. I won't get to see her grow up, and I won't get the chance to have a second child. Since my mom was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, I have horrible health anxiety. Story 16. I've been afraid of dying since I was a toddler. The idea of no longer existing fills me with a deep, aching hollowness in my chest. It's the loss of absolutely everything, and it's completely inevitable and permanent. It's such a fundamental fear for me that I find it very difficult to comprehend that some people are not and have never been afraid of it. If you stripped away all that I was as a person piece by piece, it would be one of the last things to go. Similarly, I find most people's attitudes towards the deaths of others bizarre as well. We tend to feel sorry for the family and ourselves, but the person that died just got wiped from existence. Their beautiful, complex, feeling brain has shut down, and we're sad because of how that impacts us. Also, death is rarely peaceful, so I live with the knowledge that my last precious moments of existence are probably going to be in agony and fear. That's a fun bonus. Story 17. I think the only reason we fear death is because we do not understand it nor what happens after. It's like how we are not scared of the dark, rather what's in it. Not knowing is probably one of our greatest fears. And I think that's why almost every religion has an afterlife, in an attempt to get rid of said uncertainty. Story 18. I am afraid because I know that all the memories I have made in my lifetime and everyone I have met will just disappear forever from my mind. Everything I know will disappear forever, not to mention the thought of being forgotten and leaving loved ones behind. Story 19. I am not frightened of dying. Any time will do, I don't mind. Why should I be frightened of dying? There's no reason for it, you've got to go sometime. Story 20. I am very afraid of dying to the point of random panic attacks. I think it's mostly the thought that at any point my consciousness could just stop existing. Life just seems so fragile. Story 21. I am terrified of dying. It sends me into really worrying panic attacks. I have spent many nights of many weeks trying to figure out why I have such a fear. I have come up with no answers, but every time I think about it, I become more scared. Story 22. I am afraid of dying too soon, especially if we only have one life. I'm only 16, so I haven't really done anything like traveling, meeting someone, etc., so I'm afraid to die now. Hopefully, I won't be until the age of 80 because I've already done everything I wanted to do. Story 23. I've died 3 times due to a traumatic brain injury. It's frightening. It hurts. My God, it hurts. I was bleeding in the brain in 2 places, the frontal and anterior lobes. My breathing shut down. Panic. Complete and utter panic. I was fighting the paramedics. They had to strap me down. They intubated me, which is another whole level of panic for a lifelong asthmatic. They were ventilating me, and then my heart went into fibrillation. And then the pain, oh my God, the pain. Everywhere. Every single nerve was screaming like I was on fire. And then they defibrillated me. I've been shocked a number of times as a clumsy electrical engineer, but this was like nothing I've ever felt. It was like sucking on a high voltage line. My whole body lit up, and my eyes saw sparks. And then they did it again. I tasted blood, mine, and copper and smelled fire. And then whap, like hitting a black wall, I was gone. Totally gone. From the records, they worked on me for a couple of minutes and got me going again. Automated external defibrillator only, fortunately, because a cracked sternum and ribs from cardiopulmonary resuscitation really suck. Then repeat in a hospital emergency room. Then a helicopter to the level 1 trauma center. Then repeat in the trauma center emergency room. Then coma for 4 days. Then surgery, and I woke up a day or so later wondering what the heck. I don't like pain. I've experienced it. I know dying all the way will hurt like hell. I fear the pain. What comes after? I have no idea. As far as I know, nothing. But there won't be that level of pain again. All I can say is, try not to get concussions or brain injuries when you're a kid. My simple fall on ice probably wouldn't have done me in if I hadn't been a wild one as a kid and gotten 9 concussions before I was in my 20s. Wear a freaking helmet. Story 24. I am not afraid of being dead. I am afraid of the uncertainty surrounding the process of dying. The potential suddenness or prolonged suffering, immense pain or nothingness, saying goodbye to loved ones or not even having the chance, being alone and nobody finding my body for weeks or having people witness my death. Story 25. I used to be extremely afraid of death. I stayed up at night because of the thought. But then I realized I did not exist for billions of years until 16 years ago. I did not feel loneliness. I did not feel pain. I did not feel fear. I was not conscious. I hope there is some form of reincarnation after death, but if there is not, it does not bother me. Story 26. I am afraid of death because what happens during death? Is it darkness without end? Is it what we imagined as heaven? Is there even an afterlife? Existence crisis stuff. Story 27. I look forward to wandering this world in the hereafter, exploring in death as a spirit that which I could not explore in life. I will visit my family's old landmarks, go to see friends, cause some mischief every now and again, and simply live wherever I please. Granted, I won't do so forever, and when I've had my fill, I'll simply venture into the next life. The path to get there, though, is something that preoccupies my mind a great deal of the time. How will it happen? Will it hurt? Will I be satisfied with my life and where I've left it? Or will I seek to finish in death what I couldn't in my previous existence? So many questions, so many sleepless nights, so many waking moments of disorientation and disassociation. Life ends, death begins, life starts anew. Two things seemingly perpendicular to each other but are actually one and the same. Death exists as another form of life, and life exists as an aspect of death in its own right, ending one form of existence to bring it to another revitalized one. Everything's connected, two sides to the same coin, and that's what makes life so interesting, yet also so dull. So, am I afraid of dying? Not so much afraid as I am curious as to how I'll go. I've already died twice in my life so far, from a head operation gone awry when I was still a baby, to drowning in my grandparents' creek when I was a few years old. So death doesn't surprise me much anymore. If anything, I would greet it as an old friend, for it brings peace to the pain that is the poor circumstances of one's dying. But no, I am not afraid. Merely, I'm expecting and accepting that I shall die, and that upon my passing I'll be healthier and stronger, unbounded and can do what I please. If anything, I'll be happy once I'm dead, yet my life is not mine for the taking. Simply, I shall go when the time is right. Story 28. I used to be scared, but not anymore because my sister passed at 16 years old 2.5 months ago. I'm scared of dying young because my mom wouldn't last any longer, considering she says she's only alive right now because of me. Story 29. Yes, I think my fear mostly stems from trying to conceptualize what it feels like to have no consciousness, which obviously is not possible. Also, the idea of ceasing to exist for all eternity just freaks me out. Story 30. The way I see it is that each and every one of us has been dead for an infinite amount of time before we were born. We were not scared then, therefore we should not be scared now. We already know what it is like. There is no unknown to be afraid of. What scares me more right now is the knock-on effect my death would have on those that I care about who are still alive. That is my living thought on the matter, although when I go in about 60 years' time, there will be no me to ponder this. Story 31. I am afraid of death overall. I am in my late 20s, and in the last few years, whatever religion I was previously holding on to was let go completely. I consider myself spiritual, but I have no idea what I believe. I have some soul searching to do. I am mostly afraid of dying because of the unknown. I have no beliefs as of right now in an afterlife. I really struggle with the fact that there is no scientific explanation or concrete information about what actually happens to us after death. Almost 2 years ago, I lost someone who I loved deeply, and it shook me to my core. He was so young and full of life. His death was the first one I experienced where it felt very permanent to me. He was here and then gone and will never return again. That is so scary, to compare the pain and permanence of that loss to the inevitable loss of others you love, and also the loss of your own life. Story 32. Sometimes you see, I'm not religious at all, But I do hope that there is some kind of heaven and hell because there are so many bad people who get away with being bad their whole lives, and they should receive punishment after death. Same for people who are good for their whole lives but never get rewarded for it. However, then I start thinking, where would I go? Where would everyone who has never done something really bad or good go? Moreover, who decides? Does a higher being? Because that's a lot of people to filter through. Do we? Because there are good people who feel bad when they shouldn't and bad people who don't feel remorse, so if we decided, some people would get screwed over. Thinking of the logistics of heaven and hell makes my head spin, but I always end back up to wanting there to be something to give people what they deserve after death. Depending on where I am in my thought cycle, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Story 33. Not afraid so much of actual death, but more so of the many ways it can happen, especially gruesome deaths like burning alive and torture. But what scares me the most is how easily death can happen during everyday tasks like driving and walking. Story 34. I wasn't. When it was just me, I wasn't. I wasn't wishing for it or looking forward to it. I didn't want to die or anything. But the idea didn't scare me much. Now that I have a husband and a son and a very soon-to-be newborn, it terrifies me. The thought that my toddler would grow up with no real memories of me terrifies me. It is scary to think that my husband would be going it alone with two very small kids, with only my life insurance through work and the money we have invested, and without my steady income to add to his own. It's scary to think of leaving my family behind without me,